Sorry I'm the only one here. You have to put up with me. You probably wanted one of the others, but you get me. Really quick sorry that we haven't uploaded any skits or CMVs recently. Life is being a bitch and is basically in the way. So there probably won't be any for a while. Okay. So, as the title suggests, this is just a very basic sewing tutorial video. If you're just getting into cosplay, then I'd recommend sewing by hand to begin with. Unless you already know how to use a machine, because a sewing machine can be quite scary if you've never used one before. Plus, hand sewing is a very useful skill to have. Even if you're not cosplaying, it's a useful skill to have. I mean, you can repair your own clothing, which is always handy, especially if you don't have much money to buy new clothing. So, hand sewing is good. Also, if you're just getting into cosplay and you haven't sewn anything before, I wouldn't recommend, like, making something from scratch straight away. It probably won't turn out fantastic if you've never sewn before, and chances are you'll get very frustrated and then it will just put you off from sewing anything, which is not good. So make sure you start off with small projects, like try and find clothing that you can alter rather than sewing something from scratch. Okay, what I'm going to do is sew this red bit of trim to this white bit of fabric. It's all scrap fabric, it'll probably go in the bin afterwards, so basically just sewing this red bit to the white bit. I'm going to use thread that doesn't match so it's easier to see. I've already pinned it, as you can see. Ow, I just stuck a pin right in my finger. I've already pinned it, as you can see. Ow. Sewing is a dangerous game. So, first thing we need to do is sort out our thread. I'm going to use a very bright thread so it's easy to see. Make sure the length of thread that you use isn't too long because it will just get tangled and it gets knots in it and it's just very stressful. So make sure you don't cut off too long a piece of thread. Now that you have got your thread, you will need to knot off the end, otherwise when you sew it will just come straight through the fabric. To knot off the end, basically tie a knot bit thing, I don't know what I'm doing, tie a knot thing around your finger and then pull your finger out so I can't see what I'm filming, I don't know if you can see that, so that you have a hoop. When you have your hoop, you can pull it tighter, and if it doesn't actually, this is really difficult, I need a better camera for this. If you want the hoop closer to the end, a little trick you can do is get one of your actual pins with the little balls on the end, stick it through the hoop, oops, I missed, stick through the hoop and pull it closer to the end. You will need to knot it more than once, so keep that pin handy. Do another hoop. And pull the hoop so it gets smaller but not too small. Put your pin in it and you can pull the hoop so that it's in the same place as the knot you've already done. And just keep making it smaller and pulling it until it's actually got the knot and the hoop in the same place. Then your knot will be on the same place as the first knot. I usually do it 3 or 4 times, depending on how lazy I'm feeling. Once more, try and show you, although the camera, I'm not sure how well the camera's picking it up, so I apologise if you can't actually see what I'm doing, but maybe you'll understand what I'm doing. Put the pin in and pull the knot, the hoop of the knot down so that it's so that it ends up on top of the other knot. Ah, get on there, you little. Yeah, that's what I thought. And as you put it tighter, you'll end up with a big knot. I hope that made sense. That's how I knot up my end of thread, to make sure all the knots are in the same place, because otherwise you end up with loads of knots all in different places, and yeah, it's just a pain in the arse to try and get them in the same place. Once you have your needle, if you've got perfect sight, you can just put the thread through the needle hole. I can't do that. I don't have perfect sight. My sight's terrible. I can't even fucking barely see the actual hole, let alone actually thread it. So I use a needle threader. So if you have problems threading up your needle, use a needle threader. It's an ingenious device and it's really easy to use. All you do is you get the little wiry hoop bit and you put that through the hole in the needle. First time. Like so, so you have the needle hanging off your threader. Once your needle is hanging off your threader, you get your thread, obviously the end that's not knotted up, and you put, excuse me, and you put the thread through the giant hoop of the threader. Once you've got your thread in the threader, you hold the needle with one hand and you pull the threader back through with the other hand and keep going, and your needle is now threaded. Now that you've got your needle threaded, you can do your sewing. Try and sew as close to the actual edge line as possible. I just dropped my needle, wow, I'm so clumsy. Yeah, as close to the edge line as possible. If you're using fabric, make sure you fold it over so it stops it from fraying, because otherwise, as you can see with this bit here, this bit's all fraying, and you can pull those bits out and it will just keep coming out and it won't be very good. Obviously this doesn't matter because it's not anything, there's not anything at all, but when you are sewing, make sure you start from the side of the fabric that's not going to be showing, like the inside, because obviously you're going to have a knot and you don't want the knot showing, so make sure you start on the inside of the fabric, and you just go through the fabric. Sometimes that's when you will need a actual thimble. Almost called it a kiss again. It's when you will need a thimble to push it through if you're using several layers of fabric, because it will hurt your finger trying to push the needle through. Then all you do is just go in and out of the actual fabric in the line to make an actual line of stitches. I'm not doing this very neat at all. Try and keep the stitches fairly small if possible, because the smaller they are, the more secure it will be and the less noticeable they'll be. Obviously we'll be using the same colour thread as the fabric, so it'll be less noticeable anyway. Once you've sewed some, you can take some of the pins out. That's really badly done, but as you can see, that's how it will look, just a basic straight stitch. Obviously you can do a zigzag stitch, but that takes more time and effort, and that's more... I'm lazy. Obviously don't rush it. Try and... it's my finger! Obviously don't rush it, try and keep your stitches neat if possible, but obviously I'm not really bothered at the moment. Okay, we're going to pretend that that's finished. Okay, once you're finished, get your needle out of the way. Whee! Right, make sure you have enough thread left over to knot off, because otherwise you're going to have problems. You need to knot it off, otherwise it will just go back through the actual fabric, and then your clothes will start falling apart, which is never a good thing. To knot off, well, it's going to be tricky to show. What you need to do is wrap the thread around 2 of your fingers, like so. Pull the thread through your fingers so that you've got a giant hoop. Now before you take your fingers out of the hoop, grab a pin, put the pin in the hoop. Once you've got the pin in the actual hoop, put the pin where the thread is actually coming through the fabric. Probably can't see them, but where the thread's coming through the fabric. Now you can take your fingers out and pull the fabric, and the hoop will go down towards where the pin is. So the closer you have the pin to the fabric, the better. Once you've pulled it tight, don't pull it too hard or you'll break the thread. You can then pull the pin out and the knot will be right next to the fabric. Do it a few times. I'll do it again if I can. Right. Wrap the thread around 2 of your fingers. Get around the fingers. Like so. Open your fingers up a bit, which is why you need quite a bit of thread left over if possible, because it makes it easier. Pull the thread through. Put the pin in the hoop. Pull your fingers out of the hoop. Make sure the pin is where the other knot is. Pull on the thread and it will pull it tight towards the actual fabric, so both knots will be in the same place. Obviously several times if possible, because it makes it more secure and then it won't come unthreaded. But yeah, it's very badly stitched. That's not a straight line at all, but you know, practice makes perfect. Plus I don't usually stand up while I'm sewing, so this is a bit weird. Obviously you can see, well I don't know if you can see, you might be able to see the actual knot. Then you just cut off the excess and you should have a sewed garment of some form.